If I'm hot-blooded, I check it and see I've got a fever of 103, but I don't know what temperature I'm supposed to be. I have no way of knowing if this temperature is high or low or just dandy. Yeah, sorry about that opening. That was pretty bad. Hi, I'm Lulu. Welcome to my channel. Please like this video, subscribe to this channel, and ring that notification bell. Writers have been given the following advice for literally thousands of years. A great way to start your story is in medias res. For those who don't want to Google this phrase, it simply means starting a story in the middle of the action rather than starting it ab ovo, or from the beginning. And there's a lot of wisdom in this advice. We wouldn't be repeating it since before the birth of Christ and the death of Latin if there weren't. Nobody wants to read about a hero brushing his teeth before he goes to fight the monster. Just fight the monster already. But there is another Latin phrase that cannot be disregarded. Status quo. This is a phrase I've known since forever, but I never paid a whole lot of mind to it until recently when I found a severe lack of it in my current novel in progress. That is just how I learn, by flying into things blindly and then realizing how I screwed up after the fact. For those who don't know, status quo is the term for the part of the story where you establish the norm. No, this doesn't mean watching the hero brush his teeth any more than you'd start the story of the Trojan War with Helen of Troy hatching from the egg. But it does mean getting a baseline for what the hero's life is usually like before the action kicks off and upends the norm. And of course, once the norm is well and truly upended, the hero can never return to the old status quo. He has changed too much from how he began. Now, with my current novel in progress, there was just something about the beginning that didn't sit right with me, and I didn't really know why. I mean, I start in medias res for sure. Our hero's wounded, barely clinging to life while his brothers in arms are being slaughtered by a ferocious dragon. It's pretty kick-ass if I do say so myself. I set my hero up for the inciting incident that will occur in the next chapter, and I loved how it was all playing out, but as I was doing some editing, I started to feel less enthused about this opening, and it was around chapter 3 or 4 that it really struck me. But why was that? Well, these are the chapters where our hero is confronted about his uncontrollable anger issues. And these are issues that play a very key role in the story, both in the plot and his personal growth arc. But I had no opportunity to establish this issue during all that blood and death and dragons where the hero is just trying to not bleed out. So when he's told he's got all these big anger problems that are sabotaging his progression, it comes out of nowhere. Why shouldn't he be angry? He's been mutilated by a dragon, his friends are all dead, and now some jerk is up in his face telling him to chill out? What garbage is that? This would be like starting A Christmas Carol right when the ghosts first show up. They'd come and tell Scrooge he's a terrible person, but we'd have no way of knowing if that's true or if these ghosts are just popping over to gaslight some random old dude for no good reason. If the status quo hasn't been set up before all the action begins, we don't learn that Scrooge basically personifies the dick in Dickens. Only with that setup does it make sense for the ghost to come over and try to convince Scrooge to change his ways. We need to know what his ways are if we are to appreciate that change. Now, I don't want to give anyone the impression that you can't start in medias res. Just because it didn't work in one particular story of mine doesn't mean it's always a bad idea. If following up your exciting opening hook with flashbacks or further context is possible, that's perfect. For example, A New Hope starts with the 2 droids and Princess Leia trying to survive a space battle, and we don't learn the status quo until afterward. This opening works because the main storyline featuring Luke hasn't yet intersected with that of Leia or the droids in their exciting space battles. He's still living his everyday normal life, and it won't be upended until his uncle buys a pair of battle-damaged droids carrying a message from the princess. If the story had started with Luke's daily farm life, it would have been mind-numbingly boring. Starting Star Wars in medias res was the right call for George Lucas, just as much as establishing the status quo right at the start of A Christmas Carol was the right call for Dickens. And while I love the idea of starting my current story in the middle of a frickin' dragon battle, it is not the right call for me. Not for this story, anyway. No, we won't be getting any toothbrushing sequences, I promise. But what if I start the story the night before the battle, when tensions are running high and the threat of the dragon looms near and a hot-headed young soldier is looking for an excuse to duck the first person who dares imply he's a coward? Well, it might not be right in the middle of the action, but it's damn close. And the later confrontation over his bad temper, well, that's actually going to make sense now. But that's just this writer's experience. What about you writers out there? Have you been wondering where to start your story? Or are you already writing a story, but you're not sure if you're starting it in the right place? Have you ever written a story only to discover later on that you started out on the wrong foot altogether? Whatever your experience, share those in the comments down below. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and ring that notification bell for more content like this in the future, and I will see you in the next video.